I prefer that to the unrelenting.
Jack Prabhu.
Will you have 4 arms or 2?
Kunja Vihari
Jaya Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Madhava Kunja Vihari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari
Jasoda Nandana Vraja Jana Rajana Jasoda Nandana Vraja Jana Rajana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaridhari Jasoda Nandana Vraja Jana Rajana Jasoda Nandana Vraja Jana Rajana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Krishna is the lover of Radha. He displays many amorous pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. He is the lover of the cowherd maidens of Braj, the holder of the great hill named Govardhan, the beloved son of Mother Yasoda, and the delighter of the inhabitants of Braj. He wanders in the forest along the banks of the river Jamuna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Part 1, Chapter 5, Text 3. Please repeat. Janasha
Janasya
Krishna
Krishna
Vimukasya
Vimukasya
Daiva
Davad
Janasha Krishna Vimukasya Daiva
Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Davad
Adharma
Dharma
Shilasya
Silasya
Sudu Kitasya
Sudukitasya
Adharma Shilasya Sudu Kitasya
Adharma Silasya Sudukitasya
Anugrahayeha
Anugrahayeha
Charanti
Charanti
Nunam
Nunam
Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam
Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam
Bhutani
Bhutani
Bhavyani
Bhavani
Janardanasya
Janardanasya
Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya
Bhutani Bhavani Janardanasya
Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Daiva
Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Daivad
Adharma Shilasya Sudukitasya
Adharma Silasya Sudukitasya
Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam
Anugrahaya Charanti Nunam
Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya
Bhutani Bhavani Janardanasya Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Daivad Adharma Silasya Sudukitasya Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya
Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Daivad
Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Daivad
Adharma Silasya Sudukitasya
Adharma Silasya Sudukitasya
Anugrahaya Charati Nunam
Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam
Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya
Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya
Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Daivad
Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Daivad
Shilasya Sudukitasya
Adharma Silasya Sudukitasya
Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam
Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam
Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya
Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya
Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Daivad
Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Daivad
Adharma Silasya Sudukitasya
Adharma Silasya Sudukitasya
Anugrahayena Charanti Nunam
Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam
Bhutani
Bhutani
Bhavani Janardanasya
Bhavyani Janardanasya
Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Daivad
Janasya Krishna Vimukasya Daivad
Adharma Silasya Sudukitasya
Adharma Silasya Sudukitasya
Anugrahayena Charanti Nunam
Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam
Bhutani
Bhutani
Bhavyani
Bhavyani Janardanasya
Please repeat. Janasya
Janasya
of the common man.
of the common man
Krishna
Krishna
from the Supreme Lord Krishna.
Supreme Lord Krishna
Vimukasya
Vimukasya
of the one who has turned his face against the Lord.
one who turned his face against the Lord
Daiva
Daiva
by the influence of external energy.
by the influence of external energy
Adharma Shilasya
Adharma Silasya
one who is engaged in irreligion. Sudu Kitasha, one who is always unhappy.
is always unhappy.
Anugrahaya, due to being compassionate towards them. Iha, in this world. Charanti, wander. Nunam, certainly. Bhutani, persons. Bhavyani, great philanthropic souls.
Great philanthropic souls.
Janardanasha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Translation, please repeat. O my Lord,
Oh my Lord.
great philanthropic souls,
Great philanthropic souls.
travel on the earth
Travel on the earth.
on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
On behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
to show compassion to the fallen souls,
To show compassion to the fallen souls.
who are averse
Who are averse
to the sense of the subordination to the Lord. Translation. O my Lord, great philanthropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to show compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. To be obedient to the wishes of the Supreme Lord is the natural position of every living entity. But due only to great past misdeeds, a living being becomes averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord and suffers all the miseries of material existence. No one has anything to do but render devotional service to the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. Therefore, any activity other than transcendental loving service to the Lord is more or less a rebellious action against the Supreme Will. All fruitive activity, empirical philosophy, and mysticism are more or less against the sense of subordination to the Lord, and any living entity engaged in such rebellious activity is more or less condemned by the laws of material nature, which work under the subordination of the Lord. Great unalloyed devotees of the Lord are compassionate towards the fallen, and therefore they travel all over the world with the mission of bringing souls back to Godhead, back to home. Such pure devotees of the Lord carry the message of Godhead in order to deliver the fallen souls, and therefore the common man who is bewildered by the influence of the external energy of the Lord should avail himself of their association. Translation. O my Lord, great philanthropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to show compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord. Philanthropic, I looked it up in my really old dictionary, and it said philanthropy as basically the main two definitions were, concern for the general welfare of humanity through donations to try to uplift humanity, mostly through social. Kept mentioning social means and financial means like that. So, but as devotees of the Lord, this pretty much sums up Srila Prabhupada coming from India. Prabhupada said that most people coming from India, they're taking, but said, I am simply giving. I will give. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what I'm doing, Srila Prabhupada said. So, that's what we do. we've tried to follow in Srila Prabhupada's footsteps, and what we're supposed to do is spread the glories of Krishna. And it mentions here in the purport, Prabhupada says that to be obedient to the wishes of the Supreme Lord is the natural position of every living entity. But due only to past misdeeds, a living being becomes averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord and suffers all the miseries of material existence. So when we're out there preaching, like yesterday, I got several chances to preach. It was really nice. It's very nice. But when you're preaching, it's kind of like, walking on rice paper. You do it just right so you don't disturb. You learn over the years preaching, you learn how to walk on the rice paper without disturbing them. But first you have to become their friend. And first you have to have a common ground. And yesterday I kind of blew that in a couple cases. I kind of forgot that because it's so comfortable here in Picayune. But here I always try to approach them on a friendly level, something in common, start talking about something. Gradually, eventually later, lead into yoga, things like that. But yesterday was kind of an unusual day. I had a meeting over there in Goport, and kind of a topsy-turvy day. So I met 3 people. After 3 strikes, you're out. 3 people that it was a bad experience. But I've never preached in that neighborhood Walmart in Goport before. But it was a bad experience. I could tell there was something bad in the atmosphere going on. As a matter of fact, while I was there, a lady tried to rob the meat department. She tried to get out the door. A lady chased her who worked there, and that lady was hitting her on the leg like that repeatedly. And then the guy was outside in the car, picked her up and went shoo, took off. I talked to the lady. I preached to the lady. She was the 4th person. Bad news comes in 3s, good news comes in 3s. But at the end, before I was going to go, I just struck up a conversation with the lady that worked there. And I started on common ground, like, what was going on? I kept hearing different things. What actually happened? Did somebody get hit by a car or something? And so she explained it all to me. And it was pretty amazing. And we started talking about padam padam yadi padam notation, danger at every step. And I said, I didn't want to see this, because I don't like watching any of these things about death and bad things. But I did see a video that was on Discovery Channel or something about this. There was a train sitting there, and then there was another track, and this is busy people with briefcases in the big city. And a man was hurrying, and then he stopped. But the little lady right next to him, she stepped one step further because she couldn't see the train coming because he was right there. Anyway, so nothing, I'm not going to say anything bad, but she disappeared. She just completely disappeared. Yeah. So to me, that's padam padam yadi padam notation. The next step she took, she was gone.
What country was that, Prabhu?
Huh?
What country did that happen?
In America, yeah.
Wow.
What do you mean she just vanished?
You got hit.
Yeah, she just vanished. Yeah.
How'd she vanish?
Because the train hit her. The other train was whizzing by, and she couldn't see it because
Did you get the body?
there's a train there. Well, yeah, of course, but I mean, from our view, she just completely disappeared. Yeah.
I thought you were telling a ghost.
Well, I can give you details about what she told me, though. She saw this happen in person, and what she saw was traumatic. She explained it to me.
So the point is, in Walmart, the people they're hungry. I mean, not that we want them to eat meat, but they're hungry and they don't have money for food.
I think that's good for them.
And they're doing dairy, daylight, and steal.
It was the meat department. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's the meat department.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
I mean, there is a real need. The people are. It's too bad we couldn't
I
have.
was telling her, I said, well, she must have known what she was doing because, like in martial arts or MMA, you know what to do. And she was pounding the same spot on her leg, and then she made her escape. That's unusual for a lady to do something like that. A lady, she obviously knew what she was doing. But anyway, so she saw that happen in real life, a different incident. She explained it to me.
She saw it.
She saw a different incident in real life. She saw it happen. Yeah. I think it was a woman too, or a man. No, it was a man. Yeah, it was a man. And the reason he couldn't see the train coming is because he was deaf.
Oh.
And he was a dog catcher for the city. And he just didn't, he was chasing a dog, I guess, something. And he just didn't even hear the rumbling. He would have felt the
It was a
rumbling.
vibration.
Yeah.
Deaf people I did a play once for deaf people, and they could feel vibration, and they were able
Yeah.
to. But that's what life is. I mean, we don't see it coming. It's coming down the track. You know, and it just wham.
Yeah.
I went. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna go into me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just wow. That's incredible.
I'll give you the details later. It's not real gross, but I don't want to say it from the deities. It's not super gross or anything. But what you she explained it to me. I said I saw something happen like that one time in Penny Street at a house preaching
Yeah.
center. It was the strangest thing because I was in the backyard and I heard this bam, right? And then I look up and there's the house, right? The edge of the house. And I see this pit bull going 20 feet. And I don't know how far he'd already flown. Landed on his feet and ran right on back. Got hit by a car. A pit bull, you know. I think, wow. Yeah. But anyway, so I don't know. I wanted to ask everybody, and when I was younger, a teenager, we heard all these songs about brotherly love and traveling the world. I don't know if you've heard of this, but there was one song, I don't know how it goes, something like into the desert on a horse with no name, things like that. And like people traveling the world. I just want to travel the world and be spiritual and, you know, go to other countries and just, I've heard of these things growing up. And I read, well, of course, spiritual books too. But I'd always heard of this, you know. Philanthropic souls travel the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to show compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to this sense of subordination to the Lord. Of course, one devotee told me that one time he was, and of course back in the days, the hippie days, he was John from Mari Sevika. He was walking through the park or something, and he heard this ching-ching, 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 like that, you know? And he kept walking, what is that sound? He kept walking, he couldn't see it. And then the trees, and then he began to see, what is that? Like orange color, what is that? And he kept going, and it was devotees, and it was Vishnu, John, and some devotees. And it was like, he thought it was so cool. But see, back then, he was doing some kind of drug thing, whatever it was. And so,
you the other person.
not John, no. I mean, well, yeah, they're both named John, I guess. You know, John that.
So the devotees were having some kind of program in the woods.
Yeah, and he started hooking up with them, and maybe they were there for a week, maybe. And he used his van or something to get them around. And he said it was the most amazing, transcendental experience coming across them, and that's how devotees do, you know, they're out there all over the world reaching out to people on behalf of Krishna. That's just what we do, you know. Philanthropic, well, we're giving the greatest gift that there is, you know, the greatest riches that there is. And they don't even know that they want it. They don't even know that they are attracted to Krishna. They love Krishna. And they've just completely forgotten. And we have to work our way back to Krishna. You know, we have to beg Krishna, please. And to find a spiritual master, I mean, a bona fide pure devotee of God, I can't imagine anybody ever taking Prabhupada for granted. You know what I mean? I never got to meet Prabhupada in person. So I have that going for me. In other words, how could I ever take him for granted if I've never been in his presence? See, if you've been in his presence, I really admire those devotees because, you know, they were able to maintain that transcendental attitude towards Srila Prabhupada, properly respect him, you know. But if you take your spiritual master for granted, then your spiritual life is finished, you know what I mean? Especially committing offenses, you know. So, but
There was a time when you couldn't go anywhere in America. The one space where you would just hear and the doors would be chanting. And then all of a sudden it changed, and every airport, every street corner, we were out passing out books, and we were And then people, you know, when you start, like, we did that program in Nashville, that Rath Yatra in the park that time. One of them, there's several of them. And people, there was two reactions. One was, where have you been? We haven't seen you. And the other was, who are you? You know, it was like, the one generation was wondering where we've been, and the other generation was a whole new thing.
Yeah. And you probably remember this. I probably mentioned it recently, but there was that one funny time that Josh Sena and I went to UAH. It was back when that English lady predicted there would be a UFO, the date and everything. You know, this is like, God, I don't know, 10 years ago? I'm not sure. But anyway, so we had not been to UAH for a while, which
Where's
was
UAH?
University of Alabama in Huntsville.
Okay.
And the campus. And they have a monolith there, UAH. And it's a free speech area. So we'd always set up our blankets out there, incense, recording, you know, and chanting and everything there. And cookies, probably cookies. That's how we lure them off the sidewalk, you know. Free cookies, and they'd always come over usually. So anyway, what happened was this. Finally, after about maybe 3 or 4 months, we came back, you know, and we just sat down and we started chanting and everything. And people started showing up with cameras, you know. And it was like, what is going on? You know what I mean? And I asked somebody, like, you know, what's going on, you know? It says, well, we were sitting with our backs, you know. There's a space between us. And it said, look right there. It said, look right there. And we looked, and it said, welcome, aliens. That's a true story. We were there on the day. That only Christian could arrange that, you know. Seriously, that Christian is amazing.
That's
So amazing. Yeah. That's a true story. I said, whoa, yeah, I remember. I heard about that. I said, wow. It was just so heavy. But it was so beautiful there, too, because it's like every now and then, I remember this one particular young Muslim girl came up there. She was so excited. She said, it's just so nice to see anybody out here, you know, talking about God and singing about God and everything. I just thought that was wonderful. We heard that a few times in Birmingham, too. Tuscaloosa, there's a lot of big donors there. I heard. I've talked to some Muslims, you know. I talked to one young gentleman that was sitting down next to Black Warrior River on a big boulder, and he was meditating. The last person in the world, I think, a Muslim would be out meditating. Maybe they meditate too, I don't know. But anyway, so I started talking to him. He was really nice. And then he started telling me, he's the one who told me that, you know, it's a rich university, and a lot of Muslims that donate big money there, you know. So we meet all kinds of people. Yesterday, I had first 3 people I talked to, and I just got a bad feeling about that. It's a neighborhood Walmart, you know what I mean? And I've been in there before, but I never really tried preaching there.
John Tucker Marsh always says you have to tune into the frequency.
Yeah, good point.
You know, there's like AM and there's FM. You have to figure out the frequency of the people around you and read them, and then because like some people you go in and say you start talking about love of God and they're totally turned off.
Yeah.
You talk to them about yoga and meditation. Oh.
Yeah, but see, here's how bad that place was. I just said, because I wasn't feeling really well, you know what I mean? I had that meeting, and it went on for a couple hours, and things kept going wrong. The computer, she had to go out and get another computer from the car, because this one was dead. Then she had problems with that one, and you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so it was just one of those kind of days. So anyway, and the diabetic thing, you know what I mean? You have to take your medicines and stuff like that. So, but anyway,
You persevered.
yeah, I persevered, and then I went in there, and then so instead of doing like you said, tuning into the frequency, becoming a friend, and talk about what they might want to be palatable to them, and you know, at that place, and I did. All I said was, "Are you interested in yoga?" You know, so a couple ladies, 2 ladies. The third one, I don't remember who that was. Oh yeah, I remember who the third one was. That was the worst. He was a Christian with dreadlocks. I said, wow, you got a cool look, man. You know, and I started talking about, are you in a band, you know, and all that stuff. I was real friendly to him, you know. And I gave him the card. And he said, do you know who this is? He said, well, he said, do you know what this is? He said, believe it or not, there's some misunderstand everything. He said, this is witchcraft. That's what he said. I've never heard that before. But anyway, and then he says, do you know who this is? He pointed to Krishna. He said, do you know who Shiva is? It's the way he asked me. And he said some of the stuff. And everything he said, I turned to a positive. Yeah, Lord Shiva, he's the greatest devotee of Krishna, you know what I mean? And then he didn't say anything more about that. And then he said something else, and then I mentioned, he's Christian. Christianity, my Gurudev said that Jesus Christ is the best Son of God, the best Son of God. So anyway, at the end, there was no, it just kind of like, he went his way, I went my way. It wasn't like the really bad feeling that some of the heavy Christians make you feel so bad. Like, let me jump in the Ganga, wash myself off or something, man. Get rid of all that, man, that negative energy. And I'm just here to serve you. Don't throw all that stuff on me, man. So, but I haven't met many other people like that. Most Christians I meet around here are very sweet, very nice. But I love that, Prabhuji, because the other thing I love that he says is we have to build a bridge to their heart. And one thing I just want to mention was that those great souls who do travel the world, pure devotees of the Lord, and they advocate, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo, Yutoba Kirat Hoksije, Hoitaki Pritieta, Yatma Suprasidati. The supreme occupation or dharma for all humanity is that by which men could attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. And everybody wants to be satisfied. And in the last part of the purport, that last line, the last two lines, everyone should engage himself in that transcendental loving service of the Lord, even in the present conditional state of material existence. And then he sums it up, just like it mentions in the translation. That will gradually give one the clue to actual life and please him to complete satisfaction. In other words, please himself. By pleasing the Lord, we become completely satisfied. We're simply offering bhakti yoga, And, I know you've probably heard that the richest men in the world are doing some sort of project now about philanthropy. I guess you've heard of a certain percentage. They're trying to, before a certain amount of time, I think it's a certain year they set, they're trying to donate half of their wealth, Elon Musk is talking about it, and a couple of the richest people in the world, and some have already donated a large percent. Warren Buffett, I think, I don't know if you've heard about that, but I was thinking, I wish devotees could reach these gentlemen, and somehow, doesn't anybody know who the Vedas? The Vedas, Yeah,
Radhanath Swami should go meet them.
Yeah! He has the magic, he's got the magic. He really has the magic, He can reach people, he sure can. Those wonderful souls out there.
But Gates started.
Bill Gates started it, right? Yeah, he did.
These other guys who are pals, then they start jumping in.
Yeah, I wish they could help publish literature. Like Prabhupada said, that gentleman who got in his way and said, excuse me, Swamiji, but if I gave you $1 million, what would you do with it, And Prabhupada said, that is very easy. I would publish books and build temples,
What about farms?
Well, that's what he told this gentleman,
Yeah. Or else I think also the farms should be the next most important.
Yeah, you're right, because, everywhere I'm looking now, people are talking about food. Mm-hmm. And Prabhupada repeatedly in these lectures is saying that in the future there will be no sugar, there will be no wheat, there will be no milk, and people are talking about food.
No sugar, no diabetes.
Already the milk is almost like water.
But now they're stealing
Compared
it.
to the milk here.
And now they're stealing food.
Yes.
See how he's doing just like Prabhupada, he brings it around. Brings the point around, make a point, It's really nice. Prabhupada always did like that. And he always would sum up by saying something highly positive, highly wonderful. And then if you do this, you can make your life successful. You know, your life will be a success. I mean, it's wonderful. I always ended on a super. The whole lecture, of course, is always super positive, but he ended on a super positive note, and he was always our ever well wisher. You know, not only our well wisher, but our ever well wisher. You know, anybody have a point they want to bring up?
This is the class I really like because you can just pick up some things that this just recently happened. You're talking about this train that, you know, I still don't understand how somebody can not know a train is coming off. But that comes anytime, any place, you know, you just don't know. You know, you're thinking, you know, this is how it happens, that happens. This happened just right beside my shop.
Oh.
Not the train. This guy, he's a very well-known guy from WLOX. You can look it up. His name is Anderson. He's a big cameraman. Everybody knows him. He's been there for 40 years or something, and he lives very close by. And he's a very kind, nice person. You know, anywhere, different places they do show, he'll go. Just 2 weeks ago, he has a son at home. He's been trying to get rid of him. Like, you know, he just won't listen. You know, he won't wear a mask. He brings his girlfriend. He's a little bit afraid. He has a pacemaker and stuff. So finally, he said, "I'm going to." He's quite a wealthy man. He said, "I'm just going to get your apartment. You just go." But the son was like a little crazy. I think he just didn't like what he heard. One day, he just went to his house. The father was in the garden or something. He took a knife and slashed him 14 times.
Krishna.
Not just he did that, it didn't come, it came as a surprise for that man, he didn't know, you know.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to crawl along the street to go to the other street to get help. He takes the car and run over.
Oh man.
Okay, he does that.
Wow.
Somehow or other the man still
Who got
survived.
over?
And then
The
his
father?
Father.
Oh.
son doing this to the father.
Oh,
And
wow.
then the neighbor who came right on time called 911, thinks that all, and he went to the main hospital in New Orleans. Meanwhile, they caught the son. The son
He's
said,
still
"Oh,
alive?
I didn't know. I was trying to protect
Yeah,
myself
still
from my
alive.
father."
Wow.
Blah blah blah. He just lies, you know.
It's a fight.
He stayed there for like 2 weeks, and he finally passed away 2 days.
Wow.
My experience doesn't have to be very far away, so I had seen just driving the car. So there was a car ahead of me, and signal became green, and he drive ahead, and there's another car who skipped the signal and ran on this car. This car went and ran another car
Yeah.
right in front of my eyes.
Mm.
So it was a terrible thing to look at. It can happen to anybody on the road.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you an example too. Back where we're from, Alabama, Tennessee, Alabama. This is years ago in the 90s, and I stopped to see what was going on, you know. And as a matter of fact, I was a maintenance guy, so I had a big white van, and they needed some of the tools that I had actually, even though the emergency people were there. It was interesting. What happened was, because I talked to the gentleman afterwards, he said that he just reached down to put the coffee cup there or to get the coffee cup. And then he looked up and he was airborne. Airborne.
Funny.
It was like an 18-foot drop. And he went off the road. He just that slight, because when you lean that way, the wheel probably just like that. So he turned, he didn't even realize it. And he went airborne and off and down into the woods. Now, fortunately, there were saplings, so they all bent, but they hung his car up. The car was all hung up. They couldn't get it out. That's why they needed some of my stuff to cut some of the trees, you know. But anyway, here's the thing. He was the happiest guy you ever seen.
All this time.
He said, "I'm just so happy. This is the best day of my life. I'm still alive."
Next
You know,
time will
I
be-
can't believe that happened. But I'm a deep meditation, you know.
Did you give him a book?
Oh, no, this is a long time ago.
Oh.
I mean, this was in the 90s, I think.